count to 3. Come with me, and you'll be in a world of
Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do.
You have found Daniel Donato's Lost Highway.
That lost highway.
Howdy, y'all. What is going on? We just got a good voice crack to start this podcast again. So I always know when the voice cracks, it's going to be a good time. You feel that breath? A breath is an affirmation of you continuing forward in this world of exponential generating opportunity. It is just all around us. We are just flooded. An embarrassment of riches and opportunity are amongst us, and that can lead you to be a little bit depressed, which I've been these past few days. And so a thought that I've been wanting to share with you guys is kind of a multifaceted thought, but I've been trying to be aware of how I talk to myself and then also how I select and observe desires mentally. So when I've been waking up in the morning, I've been saying, fuck social media. I've been getting on it. I'm not trying to take in anybody else's energy for the day. And I've been trying to remind myself that I genuinely have to love who I am today in order to get better for tomorrow. And then 2, and also do a solid job as a human today and contribute to society. You being a good person spreads. It really is. It's a radiating force that just spreads into the world in exponential ways that you are just not simply aware of because you are not that smart. So it makes sense that you should aim to love yourself. And that's hard to do because there's parts of yourself that you hate. And there's parts of yourself that you wish you got better at that you didn't get better at this year. But we might have next year. So there you go. Try to love yourself today. Try to remind yourself. There's a book I've been reading called Love Yourself Like Your Life Depends on It. And no, this is not some book club. This is not the Cosmic Country Book Club, but we will one day probably do that. Naval Ravikant's brother wrote this book, and man, I just cannot get over it. But the one thing that's really simple about it is that the mental muscle that you have is that you can flex it and repeat mantras to yourself that will curate different behaviors in your mind. So if you can tell yourself that you love yourself and find ways to love yourself logistically, like make it make sense, then you will find that the day's a little bit nicer, it's a little bit smoother. Okay, and then second, observe your desires. When you say you want something, I want to be like that person, I want to get those off-white Jordans, or I need to make more money, or I need more followers. Do you really though? Or are you just a little bit not very centered with what your why is, with what your what is, with what your main focus is? Before you take on a new desire and decide that you need to go sell this guitar and then buy this microphone, or you need to go move to this state because you heard that this person moved there and they had a successful life story, really just try to center several times a day with what your 5-year idea is, with what your plan is, right? We get that 2020 taught us that there's no regularity that is owed to us as a human race. But what you can owe to yourself is that you can, before start taking in desires and adding things onto your mental desktop, be aware of what your main goal is and be aware of what your why is and what your what is and what your mission statement is. It's really easy to get lost today without a mission statement. So, and I'm only saying that because I've been feeling this these past couple days. I love y'all. Stay patient, stay persistent, stay positive, stay cosmic. My next guest today is Mr. Justin Osborne, the genius mastermind behind Susto, also behind Acid Boys. And he's also a fantastic father, performer, writer. We met in Todos Santos, Mexico in 2019. And I just finished doing a set and he came up to me right after I finished. He's like, man, I don't have my guitar. Can I borrow your guitar? And man, I watched him play and I just fell in love with what he does. I'm a sucker for honesty. I'm a sucker for personality and people trusting in and leaning into who they are. Because I think when people lean into who they are, that is almost them surrendering to the spirit that is inside of them. They're not trying to force some identity on the people. And that really just resonates with me. And man, we just hit it off. We were smoking joints up atop of Hotel California. We were staying up until 6 a.m, just sharing an acoustic guitar with each other, going back and forth, picking on songs. And we hadn't really connected at all since then. But I had seen that Justin put out some new music. and I wanted to reach out to him. And so we're talking about his process here. We're talking about his favorite flavors of LaCroix. We're talking about his brand, Acid Boys, which is really a fantastic thing to look into if you guys aren't already familiar with that. With no further ado, the man behind Susto, Mr. Justin Osborne.
Fertile with thoughts. I love that.
It's really real, man. Something about this Monday, I don't know what it is, but Monday feels for me usually like it's like the start of all the momentum I was building from not really like working on Saturday and Sunday. And so it's, oh, well, I was kind of being like a lazy bitch on Wednesday, but then like Thursday I was hitting it hard, and like, well, with that writing session we had on Tuesday was great. Let's try digging into this idea more. And like, I don't know, Mondays are, but some days it's just like, Mondays are like just fraught with anxiety. Is there a certain day of the week where you find the vibe is best with you, or worst, also convert?
I don't know. I also love Mondays because I'm kind of a person on the weekends. I'm like, I don't do a ton of work on the weekends, especially right now. I'm not touring. So I'm like, kind of the weekends is family time for me. And so I'm just like, but I'm also having all these ideas come. So Monday's like the day where I'm like, okay, let's hit the ground running. Let's do all this stuff. And I don't know. I am like, I wouldn't say I'm not an anxious person, but I don't have like a day of the week that I think that's the part of the thing of my schedule has always been so kind of not normalized to where it's like there's not one day that kind of gets me. But
I think the normalizing thing's crazy as well, because I had this it lingers, but it's like this idea of like, man, I wish a career in music would have more of a normalcy to it. Mm-hmm. And then as I get older, I'm 25 now, and I see it's like, I don't know if really normalcy is a thing that is a solid reality at 100% for pretty much anybody. And the thing that really hit me with that, like feeling good about that, which was COVID. It was the quarantine. It's like, man, no one actually has like a full set of foundation of total stability in their work life, or family life as well.
Well, you also have to learn to be flexible, like with COVID. And it's like, I think with kind of coming from being flexible just all the time kind of made it easier. But I found a little bit more almost
limoncello LaCroix right here, man.
There you go.
It is the flavor.
I haven't had that one yet. I'm a big LaCroix person, but I stick to my pamplemousse usually.
Oh, you're a pamplemousse fellow. Come on. That is the real, that's like a that is that white collar LaCroix. Like, you're not going
Okay, well, maybe it is. Maybe it is. I like my pamplemousse. So, I can't say otherwise. But I'm a fan of almost every flavor. The coconut one is one I can't really get on board with, which is weird because I love coconut. But
either they have the worst R&D team, or they're just being marketing, because everyone says that. Everyone's like, I fuck with every flavor except coconut, and it's like, well, damn, sorry. Well, you truly, maybe they just hit the code, and it's crazy. I think the thing that I tried a recent one where it was like, it was blackberry cucumber.
Oh, yeah. I've seen that.
Like, it's like bands that keep remastering their album. It's like, I don't need 5 remasters here. Like, I'm good.
It's like, I'm not hearing the differences here.
Then it's some dude's like, no, man, we use the same compressor that we used on Pet Sounds, brother. It sounds better. You got to plug it on in, man. Got to hit the bong, put it on. Yeah,
what are you listening? What are you listening on? Like, it's like, oh, okay. All right.
Do you ever think about that when you're making music? The thing that like really freaks me out is like talking to engineers. I have a lot of friends that are like engineers, and sound engineers, that is. And they're always really worried about the audio of what they're putting out, as they should. When most people check out a song for 30 seconds on their iPhone 10 Max speaker on Spotify, which already has its own weird compression and bit rate settings.
Yeah, it's like no matter what you do, it's like gonna kind of be. But that's like I don't know. I guess a lot of it too is for the people creating the music too. It's like you want to be able to hear this project you worked on and all its resilience, but it is a shame that a lot of that finesse kind of gets like funneled into this cookie cutter thing to go into the different platforms. But I mean, I think, with vinyl, you can kind of get a little bit of that, but then you're also
vinyl. I really do.
Yeah. And it's got its own sound to be, then you also have to master to the vinyl too. So it's like, I don't know. I don't pretend to be educated in that realm. I'm not an engineer, but I love, like you said, like hearing them kind of nerd out and just be like, no, I'm telling you this right here with this frequency, it's going to be, you're going to be able to tell the difference. And usually I'm like, okay, I hear that. I think I hear that.
Damn. I don't know if I really hear most of the things I think I do.
And it makes me feel like my ears are just like, I'm like, I don't know if I'm here. I like will pretend that I hear it. I'm like, oh yeah. Wow.
The thing that I wish people would have told me about, which was like when I was coming up in school, was like what it seems to be like what people truly care about, which are not like the guitars you use or like where you recorded or what microphone you use. And they really do care about like the most simple, large scale, wide net things. And I feel like it seems to be that way with like even comedy too. It's like if you listen to like Kevin Hart's jokes versus someone who has definitely like a way more niche way of communicating, maybe like Theo Vaughn. I don't know if you fuck with either of those guys on a comedic level, but like truly,
I mean, I do to an extent. Yeah.
Their subject matter is so different. And like Kevin Hart is like just absolutely as wide scale of a reach you really could get. And then Theo Vaughn is widely niche, or not widely, acutely niche.
Specific.
Really specific, man. I actually went and saw him the other night here in Nashville. He just moved here.
Oh, cool.
And it's crazy to start to see a comedy scene start to blossom here in Nashville, even amongst the COVID potential shutdowns here. There's been a lot.
Yeah. What is the comedy scene like in Nashville? I've never really known much about the comedy scene. We have a small comedy scene here in Charleston.
You're in Charleston?
Charleston, yeah. You played here, right? I think you know my buddy Scotty Fryer, actually. He said that you played the Poorhouse or something. Yeah, he's great. He's my like go-to luthier guy, or he at least finds the right people. I'm always breaking guitars accidentally. It's not even on purpose. It's not even rock and roll. I just break guitars.
How you breaking guitar? What do you mean? How you breaking guitars? Not rock and roll.
It's a certain brand of guitar that I play that I won't name. That the necks where the neck meets the headstock just does not hold up for me in my traveling and my. I guess I'm not careful enough. It's like
you want to name them. They might be like, "Hey, Justin, you want to do a signature model?" Be like, oh yeah,
let's do like a steel neck. But Scotty calls me the Michael Jordan of breaking guitars, because I just like every month I'm like, dude, I got another one, and most of them have broken multiple times, and it's like those fixes become. But anyway, he was talking about you the other day. He just had a little baby girl, and I went to go see them and pick up a broken guitar from him. But I'm in Charleston.
Man, I love Charleston. When we first started touring, Scotty was the fella that actually like helped me start touring. And what is it? Is it what's his daughter's name?
Margot. Yeah, Margot.
Margot, yeah, man. So she's beautiful. They sent me, I'm
brand new, just a couple weeks old.
Man, I'm looking at a photo Scotty sent me. He asked me to like sign a vinyl for Margot. Speaking of vinyl and speaking of Scotty and speaking of family, which is so funny. And he sent me this photo of him and Marie, his wife.
Yeah.
And then Margot, and Marie's like holding Margot, and then Scotty's holding my vinyl right next to Margot. It's like, what is this? And man, I think there's like Scotty to me, which I bet a lot of listeners can relate to this, which is like there are people that you meet in your life along your journey that you are very much so confident that you were intended to meet that person. They were to be a liaison for the baton that is your goal.
Yeah.
And man, Scotty was that guy for me. He called me when he saw I was doing like 3-4 shows and I booked about 100-mile radius outside of Nashville, just emailing people, waking up at 6:30, like practicing guitar, and then sending out 100 emails to anywhere and anyone.
Yeah.
And one out of every 10 get back. And I ended up booking a tour. And it was like 4 days. And it was the first tour we ever did. I rented a van. And as we were backing up out of the alley, in Knoxville, the alley was too narrow, and it was like a Mercedes Sprinter, and it just straight up knocked off the.
Dude, I feel like I know the exact alley in Knoxville you're probably talking about. Yes. I used to book myself there too, and we would squeeze into that alley, and like you're coming back. I know exactly what you're talking about.
Did you really? So you and I faced the same. We faced the same problems in life on that specific.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we were just trying to get the word out. Trying to get. It's a little difficult when you're trying to book yourself, but places like Prez Pub are like, they'll give you $100 and a pizza and like let you play. It's those are special spots. But.
Man, they really are. And you load in through the back, which are like right by the bathrooms. And so all these people are like, can you please get the fuck out of my way? I need the bathroom.
It's fucking gross back there too. But in that alley is like, I'm surprised you were able to get it. We had this like old Dodge van, but the Sprinter, I guess the Sprinters are pretty thin though too. But
it's the new one. There was a guy who like lived with his mom, and he rented out this Sprinter, and that's like all he did. And
that's his job.
It was his gig, and he was great. And he worked with me because like I still like. There was a while there I was working downtown on Broadway, and I had like probably like $10,000 in cash. Just I was living off of like circulating for years.
Yeah.
So like the first like time I went to go and invest in a tour, it was going to cost me like, I think close to like just $700 in van fees for 3 days.
Right.
Like, oh man, I'll give it to you. I'll give it to you for 5. It's like, it's all good, man. Yeah. He was good. He was a nice guy. I felt really bad when I knocked off that mirror. Cause he really was fucking pissed. He did not take it well at all.
Oh yeah. So you had to be like, hey man, I mean, wow. Yeah.
That day too. So it's so funny. Cause I think your resume in life, I'm 25. I don't know what the fuck I'm saying, but I think when you're what I've experienced so far is that your resume really is just a collection of the shit that's happened to you that makes you strong.
Yeah. It's like little small lessons you learn, like, you know, in alleys after shows or on stage talking to fans, or, you know, just little things you pick up. I think traveling and touring is a really cool way to learn about yourself and also about the world and navigating the world too. You know, I'm thankful for that sort of classroom.
It's a classroom, is it not, my friend?
Mm-hmm.
Right? It's a platform that is public, in which there is a lot of learning and dialogue that's happening, and there's a lot of opinions and methods being thrown around, which is what a classroom should be. I remember shout out to Miss Young, who's awesome. Also bought she's cool. Follows up with like, it's cool to like see teachers follow you like after school.
Oh yeah,
which I'm sure you have several of those. Miss Young always had. She was very pertinent that we have Socratic seminars. What was
that? It was like Socratic seminar.
A Socratic seminar, to my recollection, which is very, you know, so I graduated in 2013 and now it's 2020. So I think I had her class from 2012 to 2013 or 2011 to 2012, which is crazy. You use basic like Socratic forms of discussion, rules to go about talking about what was in English class, fiction and nonfiction that we were discussing. And the person talking is you don't negate their opinion immediately. You try to not directly infiltrate what you're saying, but you try to arrive at a common conclusion via questions. So if you're trying to engage in somebody's opinion and perhaps inject what you're feeling, you do so via questions. Cool. Hey, fuckface, you're wrong. Right? So like Facebook, so non-Socratic. Like
the opposite of basically what we see on Facebook right now. Yeah.
Here we go, right? Man, it's like, and that doesn't, like, the thing about like going about touring and things like that, it's like, man, it really is a magical experience to be able to somehow not die and somehow make money and somehow make music. And when you're playing in a room, life sometimes is so, like always, there's so many pixels that you can't even really comprehend the magnitude of what's happening. But if you really think about a show, which is like what this Nashville comedy scene, I went to my first comedy show here in town the other day, and it reminded me, when you're in a room on a Friday night on November 20th, that night is never happening again.
Right.
Like that, those people in their moods and wearing the leather jackets that they wore, you know, and being like them, you know, some dudes got on Jordans, some dudes got on Birkenstocks, and then this waitress is working here and she's paying her way through college and she's terrified of getting COVID. It's like everyone with where they're at in their life with their specific sets of problems and successes and who they are and who they're representing themselves to be. That's a lot of people. That's a lot of energy. And that's in one room. And
culminated. Yeah, absolutely.
It's intense. It only happens one time. I really miss that experience.
I know, man. Same. That's like, because I love the way you're not describing it, but really just kind of explaining, because that is really something that's dawned on me. It's like all these people, and it's, I think long tours, it can be easy to lose sight of that. But like, you have to remember that like everyone who shows up, this is like they may not go to maybe one show a month, maybe one show a year.
Yeah.
But then there's also everyone who's working there. And then there's the bands that have, you know, somehow all these people met and formed a band to play, and then there's, have traveled and made it, and it's like there's a lot of energy that comes together for those moments, and it's like, and you're right, you can't ever get it back. You can get a recording of a show or a comedy show or whatever, but it's and that's really just kind of like an echo of the moment. But I love those moments. I mean, I think that's what got me addicted to touring, to like booking the next show and doing it again,
Whoa, man. So when we met, we were down in
Mexico. Yeah.
Baja, come on. In California. And you guys had the nice room. Like the really dope.
We did.
On the top, and truly magical. Like very beautiful. And I don't know why I'm speaking in such like euphemisms and like large avant-garde words. Maybe it's just because the week hasn't kicked my ass yet. But there is a magical vibe. There's really for everyone who's never been, and man, I didn't get a chance to go this year. Were you down there?
Yeah, I was. I did not have the nice room this year though. That's
how it
goes. we showed, so like the year that I met you, we showed up and I had my whole band with me, and
all of Susto was there, right?
Yeah, and we didn't bring instruments because we thought there was going to be like backliner. That's why I borrowed your guitar, and thank you.
Oh, right, you borrowed my Telecaster.
I told you every time I see you, I'm going to thank you for that because you saved my butt. Doing that.
Man, come on.
But so the guys in the Cordovas, they had me back again, and this was my third year going down there. But this time I was like staying behind this laundry mat, like in this like total different. Yeah, totally different than the Hotel California. It was like across the street from the Hotel California, but it was I fell asleep one night, had some guys come in and speaking to me in Spanish and woke me up, and I was like, saying that like my room hadn't been paid for, and I was like, whoa. I like handed them the pesos I had in my pocket, and I was like, I thought it was supposed to be paid for. It's like, but it was fine. That's like part of it, and I love I love those guys for throwing that, and for I mean, airfare is fine too. I can fend for myself with the little bit of Spanish I have, but it was just funny the juxtaposition of that first year. We were like, staying in like the penthouse, and then like the next year I'm like behind the laundry room. I was like, well, this is great because it was both experiences were enjoyable but different. But yeah,
man, very present and aware observation, right? Because the yin and yang in life is the most consistent reality you can guarantee that you're going to find both joy and friction with. And it's like, whoa. So if you go ahead and try to make a conscious effort to try to project the forecast of how something should or shouldn't go, you're more apt to be aware in taking in the trivial trials that life will present for you.
Yeah. And and you're right. And it's like, there's like, you have to enjoy the yin and the yang. You have to be ready for both. And
you have no choice because it's way older than even humans.
Right. Yeah. I think that's what I love about the traveling, and like, the festival in Baja is like an extreme example of that because we're like in Mexico, but even when you're playing like Des Moines or somewhere,
I love Des Moines.
I do too, and you can have like a great experience or a trying experience. I think those things, you don't have to be traveling all over the world to feel that, but we're lucky as musicians to get those opportunities to travel, into exotic places that I probably would never have gone to if I wasn't doing what I do now,
Oh yeah. I mean, there's no reason. It's funny. It's like music again. What an abstract thing. Like, how are you going to justify that within the same season? Not even alone the same year. Right. I'm going to be, even the same business quarter, I'm going to be in Mexico, Anaheim, California, Panama City Beach, Burlington, Iowa, Nashville, Tennessee. Like, why? What do you do?
No, totally.
Like, what's that person doing? It's like, that person plays music. If you're an alien, the alien's like, well, what's music? No, it's just like, well, they go up there and they sing into something with something like vibrations coming out of the mouth that they call words, and they mean certain things. And then they also play these instruments that are made of wood that have steel on them. And how do they hear them? It's like, well, we have magnets. Well, how do magnets work? How does it travel across air? You're like, what? Like, we really are.
We're going to need to sit down for this.
Hey, would you please grab me my Pamplemousse LaCroix? I need to figure out what's going on real quick.
Yeah, man, explaining music to an alien would be crazy. And then also explaining the people that do it and how they just kind of like are. I mean, I feel you on what you're talking about, like to it. And it's like, it's kind of a real thing where you're like, especially in an album cycle year where it's like, for me, like a couple of years ago, well, we start right after I saw you in Mexico. We had a record come out like a month after that, and so we were in Mexico. Record? It was called "Ever Since I Lost My Mind," and we put it out with Rounder. They're based in Nashville.
I love Rounder, man. If I could be on a label, it would be Rounder.
Well, I love that you said that. I love Rounder too, and they've been a really great home for us.
John, Tom, and everyone over there.
Yeah, John. Yeah, he's great. But so we were in Mexico to start the year, and then my daughter was born in June. So between January and June, we did a fully North American tour, went to Europe, and then came back. And I was like, my body was just like, human body was, I don't know. We're like pushing it with all this traveling, but it was worth it. It was a good story. It's like fun to look back on. But,
whoa, your daughter was born then?
Yeah, I was on tour for like 10 weeks and then came home 10 days before she was born. And then I had to go back on tour 10 days after she was born. So my wife is like my hero. She's awesome.
Your wife is your partner.
Yeah, totally. Absolutely. My best friend, 100%. She paid my first record, the first Susto record that we put out. Like I was so broke, I couldn't even pay for it to get mastered. And so she like was a teacher, right? And she paid like the $200 to get it like mastered by this guy who's like doing it in his house or whatever. She was like, I believe in you. You're going to do this. And the first tour I went on, like, it was over her summer break and we like booked it ourselves and we went over, it was like 10 weeks. We went all around the US and she's super supportive. And she's my best friend. She's awesome.
She came with you on tour during her summer break?
Yeah. And I think that kind of really helped lay the foundation for me because that was kind of the start of like what became pretty much nonstop touring until COVID hit. And so I think like her traveling with me on it really helped her kind of understand that, yeah, there's a lot that's fun about it, but it's also work, and it's like, this is what she kind of understands where I'm going because she's been those places with me before, I kind of started doing it with the band.
Oh, wow. So that allows you, because it is an avant-garde thing to have one profession be so static within a town. Mm-hmm. And then one form of what you do, which is pre-COVID, constant travel, constant movement. Even when you're home, you're working on the next wave of a release.
Right. Totally. Yeah. Or getting ready to leave again, or just like, because there's work you're doing, like even if I'm not in the studio or not on tour, there's like a ton of work to be done. There's communications to have. There's like, all kinds of stuff. But the great thing, my wife, she's a teacher because she loves her summers. So in the summer, she's always traveling with us. And, last summer, our daughter was very new, so she didn't leave for that. But like next summer, we're going to go out and hopefully there'll be some socially distanced opportunities. If not, we're just going to travel. She loves to travel. I love to travel. Our little one is full of energy, and I'm looking forward to those like times in the summer where it's like, all right, Daddy's doing the festival circuit. Like school's out. Let's get in the van and go.
Man, it is my dream. I get like these. I get like when I like really try to, and I'm not feeling it, man. I try to sit down and think about. Just really visualize a moment that would be beautiful. And my dream is to see my child like side stage with headphones on.
Right. Yeah. Those like we have some of those. Before I was a dad, I was like, I'm going to get some of those little headphones for my little girl. And she's got some turquoise ones. She loves them.
Oh, turquoise. Yes. My favorite stone. That is the one. That's
beautiful.
Whoa. Do you think, so do you guys have shows booked for next year?
Yeah. everything we were kind of wrapping up our album cycle when all this kind of happened. So
how long was your album cycle?
It started kind of in Mexico with you, like in 2019, and then lasted until it was supposed to kind of go through like the end of summer in 2020, but we canceled like shows from March until like August. And those were just kind of some regional shows. They were markets we had already played kind of at the beginning of the album cycle. So we were kind of ready to switch into the studio. And so that's kind of what we did. And so we were kind of lucky in that way that the timing, we literally finished the last tour of the album cycle a week before everything shut down. And so,
so before the 13th of March, you finished the whole thing.
Yeah. Yeah. We got home like the 4th of March or something.
Oh my God. How beautiful is that?
I felt lucky. I felt like we kind of dodged a bullet, but
we were supposed to be playing Charlotte, at the Evening News.
Oh, I love that place.
The day of the pandemic. Have you all played there?
I kind of got, I'm from the Carolinas, so I got my start that was one of the places I would pretend to be my own booking agent, and it was actually just me. And I'd be like, hi, this is RJ with Screen Door Booking. I'd like to book, because my old band, I did DIY touring with my old band for like almost a decade, from like when I was 17 to 27.
Nick Shoulders he came from the DIY scene too. Are you familiar with Nick Shoulders?
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah.
He's just got some really stellar YouTube videos where he just has his character really bleeds through in a nice way. And I've yet to see him live, but he comes from that DIY scene too, man. And I can feel that energy from you. That seems to be just in your blood. Am I right?
I'd say so. I mean, it's kind of like I've always lived in the Carolinas too, and we don't have like the infrastructure that you would have in like Nashville or New York or LA or somewhere like that. So it's always kind of been a do-it-yourself thing, but that was fun. It was also like my old band, we weren't that good. So it was like you kind of had to DIY just to find some people who was like, okay, we'll have these kids play. Maybe they can bring like 12 people out or something. And,
right.
But it was fun. It was just basically, I don't know. Yeah, I'm thankful for the DIY stuff. But also, I don't think I could do it like that now. I'm glad to have a booking agent and a manager and all this stuff, But
it's crazy to see like... So probably the past 4 weeks, there's been a lot of shows happening back in town again. And it's cool to see the people who are sticking with it and the people who are finding ways to persist and come on through. And man, having a team is the most crucial thing. And being through throughout quarantine, there was a lot of time, man, where I was just by myself, just really lost in thought, just thinking. And the value of a team is something that is more apparent and more pungent to me in my thought process than ever, And so even if that's a team, it sounds like you've done a phenomenal job with that in your life, because you have it on both the relationship with your wife and then you also have it on the business level. And then your bandmates seem to be stellar people. Are y'all still doing the thing together or are there?
Yeah, no, it's, I appreciate you saying that. And I agree. I think I really kind of just been lucky. Sorry, my throat a little bit.
A weird time to be coughing. I'm coughing now, and it's like people are.
I know you feel bad, right?
I guess, like y'all, like ragweed's still real. Like
right.
Coughing.
I was coughing before this stuff, before 2020.
Yeah, it's like what? But, there's a real lack of sense of humor right now. It's really like everyone's.
Oh, I know. Everyone's on edge, but yeah, I still got the same guys that you met in Mexico. They're all great. They're awesome. I mean, they're all just stellar guys. I mean, like my drummer, they're all like kind of multi-talented as well. Like my drummer does all my merch design and poster design. He's a phenomenal visual artist. He went to school for that stuff. And then my guitar player does all our kind of visual production and takes photos and stuff. And he's also produces some, and it's great. I have incredibly talented people I'm working with, and that, that's just been so great through all this, because we're all kind of like, okay, we're going to get through this together. And I have been playing, when I have played, it's been mostly solo, but just because of the restrictions and stuff. But, but at the same time, we're making sure everybody's taken care of. And we've been doing a lot of studio stuff. So everybody's been, having work to do and staying busy. And I love the team. I'm grateful for them, because I don't know, I've toured solo before, and I know like how much I lose my mind, and I'm not, it's nice to have people I trust kind of that I know have my back. So,
oh man, is that not the realest thing?
Yeah.
The opportunity to be able to trust somebody, if not as much, but if not more than you can trust yourself. I mean, how cool is that to having a period of success at any scale of longevity? Like if that ball's rolling and you need help, you just
absolutely. It's like, we got this ball's going. Can you help me push it? Let's go.
Crazy, man. It's wild. Yeah. Really a heavy experience.
What about you? I mean, what's your, I know I haven't seen you play live since Mexico, but I mean, I know I've seen some of your videos and your tour. I love that you after your shows too, you always take a photo with the crowd. I think that's so special. It kind of goes back to what you're talking about, that moment being special. But what's your, like the guys that you play with, is it kind of rotating, or do you have a set group of folks, or what?
I have, in the Cosmic Country Band, there's Nick Fry and Jake Bostic, and then we've been playing with a new drummer named Kirby Bland, who is
cool.
He's from Arkansas, and he showed up to the audition with I swear to God, a Prius, with a white Prius with a NASA space sticker on the back and on the gas cap, and then on the interior there's LED strip lights, and then there's a literal space shuttle on the dashboard. Like, this guy is the awesome Cosmic Country drummer, and
I love that.
he's played in like all these like he's really young too. He's a phenomenal human, really genuine and kind guy. And he's just the perfect drummer, man. Loves Steve Jordan, loves Dark Cymbals, loves vibe, you know, loves smoking weed, so he's chill. You know, if I got to be the person who's wired in the band. The drummer needs and then Fry is my right hand man. He's my absolute I need that guy. Yeah, he's one of my best friends too in the world. He sings harmony with me, and then I just run all of my ideas past him. Vocal tracks, lyrics, demos, we write together all the time. And man, anytime that I've gone solo out on the road since we've been playing together, he's also there with me helping. We once drove to open up for Blackberry Smoke on a Saturday. We drove to Brooklyn in my Toyota Corolla S on Friday, drove home Saturday night at 1 a.m, straight through the fucking night back to Nashville, Tennessee. And I drove the whole time. I was on this rush from playing Brooklyn Bowl. And really,
I love Brooklyn Bowl, yeah.
Oh yeah, man! Shout out to Brooklyn Bowl and
there's one in Nashville now too. I haven't been to it yet. Have you been there yet?
Yeah, man. I've not been there, but they've Strings has played there. Larkin Co. Isbell's played there. Wild Feathers just did a show there, I think. It's really cool. It's really cool. It sounds great.
I have some friends who are working with the venue, but I haven't been to it yet. But I love the one in Brooklyn. It's awesome. It was like really cool. The first like New Year's that my wife and I were together, we went up to New York to spend. I think we were on our way to Vermont because her family lives in Vermont, and like we were spending New Year's Eve in Brooklyn, and like we were going to meet up with some of her friends like after midnight or whatever. Right. We didn't know what we were going to do, so we were like looking. We're like, and I had never been to Brooklyn Bowl. I'd barely even been to New York at this time. I've been a few times. This before Susto was really a thing, and we looked and we saw that there was a show at Brooklyn Bowl, and it was Delta Spirit. I don't know if you remember the band Delta Spirit. It was Matt Vasquez's band. They were on Dual Tone, but
what's the song? Do they have a couple songs?
Oh man, I'm sorry. I set you up to put me on the spot, so I'm sorry. My sister's gonna be so pissed because she's like a huge Delta Spirit fan. She's gonna be like, you can't name a single song.
Whoa, man, there's a lot to remember in life right now.
There is. Hold on, I'm just gonna real quick.
You got.
Okay, It Ain't Easy, California, Yamaha. Okay, Bushwick Blues. These are all coming back to me now. But
okay. Can we play one?
I can. It's going to be like I'm on my headphones. I don't know if you'll hear it or not.
Oh, that's all good.
Maybe you can.
Yeah. Anyway,
you're the host anyway. You can. You know what you're doing.
I do. I at least know what I'm doing, and that helps. But I really don't.
I never know what I'm doing, but we stumbled into this show, and it was at Brooklyn Bowl, and I had never been there, and it was awesome. It was New Year's Eve that we got to see Delta Spirit. They kicked ass, and and then like these balloons dropped and stuff, and that was a couple years later when we finally got to go back and play at Brooklyn Bowl, I was like, dude, this is full circle. It's awesome. I love that place.
Oh wow, man! Playing Brooklyn Bowl is very fun. It's very strange because there's people.
It's so strange. Yeah.
People fucking bowling, eating.
I didn't realize. Yeah. The whole stage left is like, you're like, you got the crowd in front of you, but then like, there's just like a fucking bowling alley right there.
Humans are so strange. Like, again, if you were to remove the fact that being human is an assumed form of consciousness, it's not. Like, if you were to observe these animals, you'd be like, what in God's name is literally happening in this room right now? You know what I mean?
Like, people on this elevated surface are being really loud.
Yeah,
and then these other people are throwing these balls at these pins and also being really loud. And it's just like those two loudnesses are competing, and the people in the audience seem to be unaware, but the people on stage seem like maybe they're aware. You can tell on that stage. You can like hear the bowling. It's like
you can hear it, my friend. We were playing acoustic. So my agent, who is one of my favorite mentors, shout out to Doug. We weren't able to get Blackberry Smoke to agree to a full band opener. So we were acoustic, which is interesting.
It happens. Yeah.
It is. Yeah, it is. It absolutely is. And it was fun. I enjoy, necessity is the mother of invention, right? I think T.S. Eliot, right. I don't know. He had cool glasses, T.S. Eliot. Yeah. The necessity thing, we drove and we played acoustic. We figured out looping situations, and we figured out pedal boards for our guitars. And we're like, man, this will compensate for the sound. And as David Blaine talks about in all of his magic, he's like 30% of what happens up there, I'm not expecting to happen until we execute.
Right.
You can't plan for those things. And who the fuck thought 10 years plus in the music industry, I would never have thought to have prepared for the echo of bowling pins reverberating through our monitors and causing feedback.
Totally a thing. It's like, it's the most disorienting. Like, I love that place, right? But at the same time, because I have memories there, but like at the same time, it's like, that's why I'm curious about the one in Nashville. Is it like a similar setup, or is it like a different room where the bowling is, or do you know?
I've never been in.
Okay. Yeah.
I've not been. I've just seen the live show.
We'll see.
From there. Yeah, we will see. There's a lot of change. Nashville's a great place. If you can ignore what people want you to think and want you to say, if you just observe Nashville, there is a lot of change and activity happening here on that radiate in all directions exponentially possible. And
did you grow up in Nashville?
I grew up outside of Nashville in a small town called Spring Hill, Tennessee, about an hour.
Okay, cool.
Beautiful place to live.
Nice.
I dream of living right outside of there in Leapers Fork one day, because it's just like really a phenomenal place to grow up. And Nashville, I didn't even know was a thing until I was playing guitar for 2 years, until I even discovered what country music was. I never even really knew.
Right.
Nashville was the epicenter of this human-based music, which is all about just truth and simple chords and stories, right? And it's, it's crazy. And then traveling to New York, traveling to LA, and making music out in those places, I really feel comfortable with Nashville.
I love Nashville. Like I said, I've never moved, but as far as like most of my team is based in Nashville, and I think just being from the Carolinas, it's like kind of like Nashville feels like a close cousin, so it's like, I feel really comfortable in Nashville. I love there. I love the music scene too, like not just the big one that you see on television, but the actual musicians who are, getting on doing the bus calls and going out and playing with great folks. And, it's just a town full of folks that I can relate to, like on a road level, you know what I mean? And friends that I've met at, elsewhere. A lot of them live there. It's definitely a hub. And I love when I get to go visit to do a writing session or something like that, there's so many, I can see so many friends in such a short amount of time because there's such a concentration of folks that I'm kindred with living there. So I love Nashville.
Do you, with writing, what's been your like past like 8 weeks? What's been going on? Have you been writing much or?
I haven't been, I guess in the last 8 weeks, I've probably written maybe 3 or 4 songs. I'm not a really active writer. I write kind of like the ether comes. Like I put an album out every 2 or 3 years, and it's kind of just a collection of whatever 15 to 20 songs I've written in that year base. And then I just whittle it down to, something 10 to 13, something like that. But so I've been mostly I wrote a couple songs in the last month, but I kind of already have my record written. So I've been kind of working more on just recording it and getting the translation of it in the studio right. But then after we kind of got, done, and I was done really early, the label was like, well, we're not really ready for you to even deliver this to us yet. So I was like, well, I'm just going to keep writing, keep recording. So I've been doing a little bit. I try not to overwrite. I don't know. Yep. I'm just not, I have a lot of other stuff I've been picking up during these times too. I've been
fucking with. Like I was talking to Afie from Bahamas, and he's been into like salmon fishing.
Cool. Yeah, that's amazing.
There you go. Like there is
I'm going fishing this afternoon. Actually, I'm going out on the boat because it's great to live so close to the water. It's like
what kind of fishing are you doing?
I don't really know because I haven't been doing a ton of fishing. I've been getting really into kayaking, and I've been
kayaking, man.
It's the best, man. I love it. And
Daniel and I went out on his birthday, and we got too high. I'm telling you.
There's nothing like getting high and going kayaking, though, man. That's the best.
Too high for the first time. I was my first kayaking at 25, and it was too high, sir.
You guys were on what river were you on?
I don't know. Off the top. No. We were in Kentucky though, and man, parents are they have a beautiful property out in Franklin, Kentucky, which is a pretty affluent area. Yeah. And his dad's cousin, my friend Kyle's name is Kyle Daniel, and I'm Daniel Donato, and his dad's name is legally Daniel, but everyone calls him Danny Daniel.
That's awesome.
And I'd only met him in passing, really. And so we show up for Kyle's birthday to go. He has a whole like legion of friends. his fiance Kristen organized the whole thing. We show up to his parents' like brand new property and house that they're building, and Kyle's there, and his dad's there, and it's like early in the morning. We left early. And he's like, "Yep, I'm gonna die here." Like,
I love that.
That's what I want. I want to build the house that I'm going to be proud to say I die at. Like, that's beautiful. And then we went, like, walked around the property and showed us like all the soybean farms and other farms they have. And like, they have a separate house on the property for when he like goes hunting, so he doesn't like wake up his wife. And like, and it was heavy. And then we got high as fuck out there, and then we went out kayaking. And man, there is something about the sound of what is just happening in nature. It really is musical.
I love it, man. That's kind of like what I've been doing, like in the quarantine. It's just like craving being in nature, and it kind of like it's led me to do a lot more. And also, you know, just being traveling so much, I haven't spent a lot of time in my community, and the low country of South Carolina is absolutely gorgeous, right? So I've been kayaking in a lot of these tidal creeks, exploring around Charleston. And
tidal creek, what is that? Oh, it just has tides.
Yeah, it's just like it fills with the tide, and then it kind of dries up a little bit when the tide goes out. But there's like, you know, there's lots of rivers around here too. And also I started like doing a couple of days a week working with the Forestry Service, just kind of to kill time, and because I wanted to be out working in the woods. And so I'm doing that, and just, you know, hobbies. I've always been interested in nature and science. And so like I kind of had to put that stuff on a shelf to pursue my biggest passion, which was songwriting and playing and connecting with people. So, but this year has been a great way for me to kind of like an unexpected chance for me to get to like live those things, you know, because once this is over, I look forward to picking back up and touring again and doing all that stuff. But it's been really great to, you know, and I don't think I'll ever do it quite as hard as I have in the last 5 years, because this year has also taught me that, like, you know, I love being a dad. I love being a husband. I love being close to my friends.
Of course you do. Yeah.
So, you know, I can cut it back from 200 shows a year. I think you could probably get away with 75 or something, you know.
You were doing 200 shows a year?
Close to, well, if not 200 shows on the road, 200 days at least.
That's yeah, like you could call it like what people don't get is like a show is not one day.
Right. Yeah.
A show
especially where we're at, like we got our back against the ocean. So if we go out to, that's the great thing about Nashville. You guys can kind of go out, you know, and for a few days in a lot of different directions. But when we go,
it's the most cosmic state, man. Like it aside from any political partisan objection that you might have, like you're going to talk about the amount of music and that's come out of it. And just like also the amount of trade that happens here, and it's just like it's beautiful, and it's
an incredibly center. Yeah,
it's wonderful, man. Yeah,
it's a great center because it's like it's southern, but it's also like it's close to the Midwest. It's not too far from the Northeast, like you're saying, driving to New York, and you're already, from my perspective, it's like you're on your way west, like in Nashville. It's great, and it's such a hub, like you said, like just the volume of entertainment. The quality, amazing, like impactful entertainment, specifically in music, but in all sorts of different like arenas that comes out of that city and just that area. I love it. It's beautiful. It's a special thing about America. Nashville is. It's like a very American place too. You know, it's like
it really, is, my friend.
Yeah,
it really is. It really is an American place. That's the whole thing I've been really trying to get on lately is American art.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's a beautiful thing to live in a town where that really is appreciated. Like that's actually part of the currency of what Nashville deals and exports and produces.
It's pretty much the capital of that, I would say. I mean, you know, like if you want to, but I mean, you know, not to, because New York and LA are very international cities, you know, and not to say Nashville's not, but it's like, it's got a heartbeat, like an American heartbeat, you know, that's like,
there's more barbecue food than vegan food here.
Yeah, right. And I love vegan food, but I also love barbecue. So, you know.
Man, I was vegan for 2 years.
You went 2 years. I lasted about 2 months, and then my bandmates were like, "You got to eat some meat, dude. You're in a bad mood."
When I'm on the road, it is meat pretty much only, and then nuts and fats. Like pretty much that only.
Because everything else is processed.
You're gonna run into a lot of that, man. And it's just like you know,
it's like sometimes the healthiest thing you can get in a gas station is beef jerky.
I can't do it. I just pack. I go to Whole Foods and I say, fuck. I just have
We're a Whole Foods band too. Yeah.
We're a Whole Foods band. That's beautiful. Honestly, if these grocers would start record labels, it'd be insane.
Oh, I know. They could just they could pay the bands in free organic food. You know, it'd be great.
Man, that's insane. We ordered something from Whole Foods, and it was at our house in 27 minutes, not even 30. It's like, that freaks me out.
Wait, I did not know Whole Foods delivers.
It through Prime Fresh.
Oh, okay. See, okay, I got you. See, I'm such a Luddite when it comes to that stuff. I don't use any delivery thing.
What's a Luddite? I don't know that word, dude.
Oh, sorry. That's like it's like someone who's reluctant to adapt with technological change.
Oh, do you find that affects your creation process?
Oh yeah, I mean, I have when we were talking about doing the podcast, I have no mic set up or anything at my house. I don't ever record any of my own stuff. I'm not really a Luddite, dude. I got an iPhone and shit, you know. But it's
you gotta have an iPhone now. That might be more of the cost of admission at a bare minimum to be able to communicate in a professional manner to establish a business team, right? Because you got to have flexibility of schedule, but you also have to have a good amount of intimacy with time. You have to be responsive, and it's
totally.
And so I get that. I get why you would have a phone. And I have a lot of friends I have friends that do 7 figures a year and they have a phone that has a home button. It's like, hey, if you figure out what works for you, that's fucking awesome. I think
right. Yeah. I did. I'm sure I will.
That just cut out there because Zoom sucks a little. You're good.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Also, my headphones are, like I said, this is just more.
You're knocking out of the fucking park. This is amazing. I'm loving this.
But I haven't adopted any of the delivery services, and all my friends are like, you could just Uber Eats that or whatever. I mean, I Uber and stuff, but I don't have Uber Eats on my phone.
No, I don't do that either. What about, do you do Amazon Prime?
I think my wife does. That's another thing. I kind of depend.
Yep. Yeah, you got that. You all got that yin and yang going on.
Yeah, totally, absolutely.
So if at your studio or your room, wherever it is, the center where you're creating your domain, you don't have a DAW, you don't have Logic, you don't have any way to record.
No, so I record my friend and producer and my closest collaborator. His name's Wolfgang Zimmerman, and he and I have been making.
What is that man's name? Are you kidding me? There was a fella. Is that legally his name, Wolfgang Zimmerman?
Yeah. So
someone pulls him over. They're pulling over the Wolfgang Zimmerman.
Yeah, in the flesh. Yeah, totally.
Fuck out of here, sir.
He's one of my best friends, and he has a studio that's about 10 minutes from my house, and so I work there, and we're boys, and he's basically like a ghost member of Susto. He's produced and played
George Martin, right? He's the George Martin of Susto,
right? Yeah, and so I think that's why I've also been dependent on him. So I don't really. I mean, I have GarageBand, and I make voice memos, but if I'm going to really start developing a song, I take it to him, and so that's just my process. So I don't really need a studio, because I basically help keep the lights on in that studio because I'm just buying time from him all the time, and it's kind of it feels like my home studio, even though it's his.
Something that I think is going to be a big paradigm shift in the music business is just the consciousness of master ownership. I think I'm starting to see a lot of that in dialogue that I have with people that aren't even musicians asking me if I own my masters. Okay, so that's interesting. And so when it comes to budget to produce music, that has a direct conflict with master ownership. It has a direct correlation. So when if you feel like sharing, if you don't, that's perfectly fine. But what is your approach to making records? You mentioned DIY. Are you funding records? Or is your label funding records? Or is it a split kind of a thing? And
it's been different. I mean, my first 2 albums I put out independently. I mean, we had a distribution deal. So I'm working on my 4th Susto album right now. And so on the first 2, I completely funded them. The second one, I did have some investor friends. But there was no master, that was not even part of the conversation.
Yeah.
But then on my last record with Rounder, I mean, they funded it. And so of course they own the masters for a period of time. But right now, I love Rounder. We're planning on putting the record out, but the option hasn't been exercised yet. Not because the timing hasn't been right.
Sure.
But so I've been funding this one myself. And honestly, it would have been hard to have done that because I had shows lined up. I was like, okay, this money is going to be set aside to fund recording. Those shows were the ones that were kind of the backyard market shows that got canceled that we were going to be doing in the spring and the summer. And so I was like, okay, well, I'm out of that funding. But the switching to virtual shows and people being able to kind of like give the band money and pay for entertainment that way really helped replace that. But then also going back to the team, having a great business manager who's able to secure SBA loans and stuff, that's kind of allowed me to pay for my own recording. So it kind of puts me in a good position as far as negotiating when it comes to it, because I've almost finished the record and I've paid for all of it so far. So
there was a lot of media I had seen when I think it was Britain had allocated publicly funds specifically for music. I don't know if it was just music venues or if it was content creators within music, or I don't know exactly. And I saw a lot of people sharing that, getting pissed at like, well, the US doesn't appreciate music and do all this. But I know plenty of people who, if they just did the homework, have gotten SBA loans that allow them to go and fulfill their project endeavors.
I'm a self-employed musician, and I also employ other people. And because we have our stuff together, I mean, and I get it's not easy to get there, but it didn't happen overnight that I had like a business manager and stuff like that. So I feel worse for the people who are like kind of starting out that are maybe where I was 10 years ago. Because
they legitimately have a harder, I was talking to Joe Bonamassa about it. It was like, he has a really rational, positive outlook on the world that has definitely been tried and tested true through just the amount of contention and tenure that he has in his career. You just can pretty much bet on what he's saying in a way where it's going to become from a place that's thought out, business wise. And man, he said it's harder now. Mm-hmm. It's going to be harder because of COVID. It's going to be harder because of, people are going to be maybe hesitant to get out and go see shows. We're not seeing that so much in Nashville, though. People are just getting right out there.
It's the same in the South. I mean, they're finding ways around it because we don't have really cold winters here either. So like up until, now people are even doing, I mean, they're kind of winding down the outdoor shows, but people just found ways around it. And it's been, innovative.
Oh, wow. So have you been enjoying the virtual experience?
I enjoyed it at first because I was like, wow, okay, I didn't think this was going to work, and it worked. And then, I enjoyed it the whole time. I just haven't really done it much more since in the last few months. I'm probably going to do a few things here around the New Year's or something, just I've been a little MIA. I've played like some private socially distanced things, but I haven't done a live stream in a while. And so, I enjoy it. It's different. It's definitely not the same thing as being in a room with each other.
The comedy show the other night, man, I having had the deprivation from shows, a period which actually is, I think if you look at the timeline of your career in too much of a capitalistic sense, you can really come up with a lot of ways to say why COVID was really bad. And you really can. Like you have to admit that earnings would be down and opportunities to go and generate opportunities for, to meet fans and play your show and also make money. Those were cut down. But something that really is real is that your brain and your psyche has had time to not experience that form of reality, which is the show and the energy thereof. And so when you go back, you're innately going to have a different perspective on it. And Justin, dude, I literally was at this comedy show and felt and almost saw the energy of the collective between the crowd and the performer.
Right.
You can feel it when a joke.
People are hungry.
Yeah, man, it's wild. It was a pungent thing that was in the air. It wasn't visible, but it was energy. And you could feel that people really do crave this. And so for the people, which I genuinely was scared of, and I don't know if you were, is music going to come back? Like in March, like towards like the end of March, first couple of days of April, it's like, man, is my career a contribution to the problem? And then no, like I'm there the last Friday. It's like not even close. Like we're actually part of the solution.
Right. Totally. Yeah. And it's taken us a little while to kind of see this thing through to kind of understand that, but I think it's going to come back even stronger probably. I think just because people are going to have realized what it's like to go without it. But also at the same time, people have had to get creative and come up with these different experiences that fit the COVID model that are also adding this new kind of side to what you can do in entertainment. These like highly curated special events where like, I think because for some folks, we've done these like shows where there's like a pod that everyone has and they're they picnic it out and stuff like that. It's like a new cool way to see things. And I'm very optimistic. It's been a hard year, but it's I think on the other side of this, it's, there's some venues that I love that aren't coming back, unfortunately, some places that I cut my teeth, and that's the sad part to me. But hopefully those places even might find new energy, new life through like new ownership or something like that. I don't know, but it's not going away. People need the music. We need to play it. It's like, it's a vibration that keeps us all together. And I think
odds are, if someone's been doing it longer than you've been alive, like much longer, it's probably not going to go away.
Right.
Like really, like people still wrestle.
Yeah.
Like people have been wrestling. That was one of the first Olympic sports was people wrestling. It's like, what are you talking? Like, we're not going to stop wrestling.
Yeah. Wrestling's not stopping.
No, wrestling's not stopping. Why are you going to say music's older than wrestling? Well, so why would music stop? Like, crazy. Taking life. I think it's like, I found lately, man, I feel like this whole year I could look back and be like, I probably should have taken it 5% less seriously and injected some humor into there. And that was one thing I wanted to ask you about, which was, how does humor or like a sense of humor, because you also have a kid, like you got to have a sense of humor to have a kid.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like how does that affect, do you think is that a conscious thing that you try to impose on your life so your music isn't too uptight and coming from a place that's too practiced? Like, does that make sense?
Yeah. I mean, I love levity in music. I think like, well, I love it in anything. Cause I think being too serious is just like, I don't know. I won't say it's a waste of time, but it's just like, life is too short, too beautiful to be like too stressed about things. And I think in music for sure, like I like to throw in little like kind of like snide things, with lyrics and stuff like that. And I think also with this whole situation, you have to, it's not a joke, but you have to approach it with a certain amount of willingness to have a sense of humor about it. It's like, this life gives you lemons type thing. And that's a joke in itself,
And this joke, and that point of the podcast is brought to you by Limoncello LaCroix, the best flavor. Maybe even over Pamplemousse. I'm not sure. We'll say it's real.
We'll do a taste test one day.
Man, I would love to do that. I wonder, is there a hot ones like LaCroix? There's got to be a hot ones for LaCroix.
Yeah, I'm not aware of it, but I think there's enough of a following that like,
Gotta be, dude.
Yeah.
Croix boys. But then if you say boys, people can get mad at you.
Dude,
why not Croix?
So my friend has a merch line called LaCroix Boys. And,
so someone's already been. I love when an idea that I've had has already been had.
He has. So I have this Acid Boys thing. It's like my like. It's like unofficial Susto merch. It's like what my label is and stuff.
Acid Boys, like LSD or like
LSD.
What?
Acid Boys.
You have it tattooed on your knuckles.
Yeah, that was my like. I'm dropping out of college. This is like I'm going to do music for the rest of my life. My friend, do you know Josh Headley? Yeah, I do. Yeah. He's
got the tattoos to Josh Headley was a Third Man Records recording artist, but more importantly, a Nashville veteran of the honky tonk down at Roberts. Since I've been playing there, he's been there. Unbelievable vocalist and fiddle player and guitar player, songwriter and shoe collector.
Man of many talents.
Jordan ones. Yeah, he's a Renaissance man. And on his fucking knuckles, he has the numbers to Swinging Doors by Merle Haggard. Oh, sir, you're in this.
That is legit. That's one of the most legit knuckle. I didn't know that's what he had on his knuckles. That's impressive.
That's really impressive.
Yeah, that's lifer as fuck right there. I love that.
It's lifer as fuck, man. I see him and I feel like a fucking Boy Scout trying to sell cookies.
Oh well, you're not a Boy Scout. You got. I don't know. Your cookies are fucking awesome.
Man,
it's probably got weed in them too.
Yeah, some really do. Some do. Yeah, man, that's cool. So tell people a little about Acid Boys because this is news to me.
Okay, so Acid Boys is like I had a song on my first record called Acid Boys, and I've named my label imprint that I put out my stuff with. Even with Rounder, it always says Acid Boys on the back of it. It's like kind of it's not just me, but it's my thing. But so my friend who has the LaCroix Boys thing, he like is one of my good friends. He's an OG Acid Boy too. We used to do a lot of that together. But he stole the boys part of my font, and I don't have it to show you, but like, and then he wrote the LaCroix logo over it. So like in Charleston, everybody knows Acid Boys, right? So then like he starts selling LaCroix logo, but then like the Acid Boys logo over it, and it's just like a knockoff thing. So it's like it's funny. It's like a combination of Acid Boys and LaCroix. So it's kind of a Charleston thing, but he's got his merchandise for sale online. It's great. It's got kind of a following too. But
Yeah, I gotta get a shirt.
you need to check out his band. It's called Crab Claw. And
He loves alliteration. He loves rhymes and alliteration.
and it's amazing. He's got some of my best friends are the band, and he is like learning to sing as he's making these records. But the songs are all autobiographical, and they're intense and they're funny, but they're true. So
You're
definitely
kind of saying while he's making the record. So do you think that's something people always tell me, like on guitar, like people I don't know that are fans of what I do, or people who I do know that are fans of what I do. It's interesting to be like, they talk about like the process of your instrument as if there's a past tense to it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, oh, you've achieved this skill, you've mastered this. It's like, I actually don't think that. Like, I really don't think like I think everything's present tense. Like, you're learning to sing. Like I'm still learning to play guitar.
Yeah, but you're pretty much a master. But yeah, you're still continuing to master probably. So
Yeah.
but yeah, I know. But he is very much at the beginning of his, like on his first record. Like it's funny. It's like
Are Charles' vocals really bad?
Huh? I mean, they're not like really bad. It's just funny. It's like part of you got to hear it and watch the videos. He's got great videos around with it too. It's like part of the whole thing. Like Crab Claw is like, it's part comedy. It's like part like dark comedy, but it's all badass. And the music behind it is just rock and roll as fuck.
Okay. I'm here for that. That's beautiful. Man, Charleston is just the Carolinas, like it astounds me the amount of music that comes from that area of the country. Like,
I'm proud of it. I think, it's not, we don't have like a hub like Nashville, but there's like a lot of, even when I was growing up doing the DIY stuff that we talked about before, booking my own shows, like I just did that because everyone was doing that. It was like a whole thing. There were bands in all the little smaller towns and stuff. And you would go play Legion huts and birthday parties or whatever. And so there's a lot of music, and I'm Charleston, especially, as far as in the Carolinas, we have a nice music scene here. There's a lot of young bands doing cool stuff, and I'm proud of it. I love our little music scene.
Man, it's just like the amount of variation too that comes out of there is wild as well. Nashville, yes, but the Carolinas really like yes. Like there's an astounding amount of dynamic happening there.
Yeah, the variety is crazy. I mean, we have a band like Ranky Tanky, who's like a Gullah band that like that won a Grammy last year, and then we have like bands like Shovels and Rope. Shovels and Rope.
I love some Shovels and Rope.
Yeah,
I like earlier stuff.
Yeah, and so they have kind of the Americana thing, and then we have Hootie and the Blowfish, which is everybody's South Carolina's favorite band.
Man, I love music that is so successful that people dislike because of its success.
Right. I love Hootie, dude. I love Hootie. And Darius Rucker, like he'll come out to see my shows sometimes. And I'm just like, I can't believe Darius Rucker is out here, like standing out there, like looking at me right now. It's like,
you ever on the mic? Like, Darius? What's going on?
I get starstruck. I can't even talk to him. My manager and him are good friends. And so I I don't know, I've met him a few times, but he's a really great dude. But it's funny,
Darius Rucker, you could just ask him where anything is at Lowe's and he'll tell you what aisle it's in.
Probably could. He's a man's man and a dad too.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
But then we got a lot of metal bands too. And it's like, we have a really great hip hop scene in South Carolina too.
What are some metal bands that are worth checking out?
So there's this one band called Through the Eyes of the Dead. And then
that could be a good jam band. I mean, come on.
And then God, I've been kind of out of the metal scene for a little bit, but there's a band from Charlotte called like Wretched. But like when growing up for me, I grew up in a little town called Florence, and there was like a little old Legion hut called the Cootie Hut. And it was in the woods, and like, it was just like have gnarly metal and punk shows in there. And they like turned Green Day down for a show there, like back in the like late 80s, because they thought Green Day wasn't punk enough. And
what do you mean Green Day's not punk enough? They said,
no, I didn't think that. I love Green Day. I grew up on Green Day. Don't get me wrong. Like Dookie is like one of my favorite albums of all time. But it's just this how serious this place was. It's like the size of like a room, and I only went to a few shows there growing up, and it terrified me. People were it was lots of drug use and lots of fighting.
Yeah.
You know?
Oh yeah, man. That's a real thing, sir. People from the South might not know this, but when you find buildings in the woods or you find bonfires in the woods, there's going to be some human shit going on. And
Yeah,
that's
totally.
that's a real part of the cultivation of your skill when you're doing things that are on your own, when you're doing it yourself. Which DIY is just, I mean, what do you mean? Like, that's how this country was founded. Like, it was DIY.
Totally.
Like, there wasn't like, you didn't know when you're like the DIY element, man. That to me is like, I think that's why people really love and they gravitate towards the story of the person who has DIY success, because it's a reinforcement of the hero's journey. It's a reinforcement of the person who took the chance on the chaos and created a great amount of beauty out of it and is doing so presently still. And man, kudos to you for doing that and being.
Well, I think you do that as well, though. You know, I think like you like have created your own lane, and you like, you know, you're always just coming up. You're always doing something. You're always got new stuff, and it's always fun and entertaining, and your talent shines through too. So it's like, you know, I appreciate the kudos, but I'd be remiss not to give them back, because I think you're like one of the people who's doing it the most and the best right now. So
thank you, Justin. That's very kind, my friend. That's beautiful.
Dude, that's just the truth, you know. So
I'm a big fan of the truth right now, man. The truth of the currency of truth, I feel, is something that
it's valuable.
I think I don't keep having these, like, I see a lot of shows happen in town. And it's like, man, like, the people who really mean it are going to be the people who keep on doing it. Like the only way to really mean it is to have truth be a pungent part of the ingredient of what you're doing. It's like,
yeah, I totally agree.
Yeah.
Like, you know, I'm not that much older. I'm 33, so I'm only a few years older than you. But like,
very close.
You know, it was in my kind of late 20s when I started realizing, because I started in my teens, and then there were a lot of people still doing it in my early 20s, mid 20s. It started falling away.
Right.
And then by like now, it's like, you know, the ones that are like, that's what I meant by lifer when we were talking about Josh Headley earlier. Is like, you know, it's like, that's like, and I think the truth is in those people from the beginning. And then you just like really start to realize that when you see like, okay, now this person didn't leave to go to this other thing. They're still in this, because this is their truth, this life, this like story they have to tell, this like, you know, draw to entertain and be connected to people. It sticks. It's real in some people, and it's not that it's unreal in these other people and they just have you know, to go a separate way. It's just, you know, some people are lifers.
Oh yeah,
maybe we might both be lifers. We'll see.
And your lifers in different realms. Like, something that I have been talking to my father a lot about is, my dad was around my age when he met my mom, who had already had me, and he married her and then started a family with her, but brought me, you know, adopted me as his son. And it was like, he was around my age when he did that. And so when I look myself in the mirror, it's like, man, like, that could be a real reality that's happening in your life right now. And that's not something I'm presently participating in, but that was him making a move at a very young age to determine he would be a lifer for a life of service towards his family, as opposed to a life of service music, or which we serve as well, but you're serving that for your family as well, man. It's like, the long game. It really is. You're playing that long game at all moments, it seems, even if you're aware of it or not.
It's it's all the decisions and experiences we have stack up, and they continue to just be a part of your life as long as you get to have a life. And like, the long game is true. You're right. You don't even realize. I think sometimes we don't realize how long the game is, or how it's like, you know, becoming a parent, or like with your dad and like and your mom and you coming into his life. It's like, you know, those things come, you realize it. Like when my daughter was born, I was like, okay, this is the person I'm responsible for now. But it's like, I hear people talking about it who have kids that are much older than my daughter. My daughter's, you know, a little over a year, but they're like, it's a marathon, you know, but it's a great marathon, because life is beautiful, but it's also suffering. But you know, the suffering is paired with the beauty, and you just learn to enjoy it and learn to be present and find some peace somewhere, I guess. But,
find that peace and find that pamplemousse.
Yeah, give me a piece and give me the pamplemousse with it. I'll take two, actually.
Let's do, aside from Acid Boys and any new tattoos or any shit like that going on, what else can people do to look into Justin Osborne and Susto?
Well, I mean, just check me out. I mean, Instagram is pretty much my way of talking to the world right now. It's just Susto is real, because the Susto is named after a folk illness, and so like it's like the whole Susto is real. It's like
what is Susto? I don't even know what it is. I don't want to pretend.
Oh man, it's funny actually. So Susto is a folk illness, and
Hey,
this is
come on.
this is a this is
I'm
a
not looking at the book on it. So what's the deal?
this is an ethnography written about Susto, but it's like it basically means like panic attack or like prolonged PTSD. Like it's a Latin American thing. It's like a kind of a mixture between psychology and Latin American Catholicism. It literally means Susto is when your soul leaves your body because something traumatic happened to you. And so when you have Susto, your soul is kind of like hovering around you, but you're not really complete. And so you have to go through these ceremonial practices, and they're different in different places. Like, I don't know if you're familiar with like ayahuasca ceremonies, but like
I've never done ayahuasca.
Neither have I, but like ayahuasca is used to kind of treat Susto. And this is one of the things it's used for. But so Susto is real is like because whenever I named the band that, I was writing these songs, I was going through a point in my life where I was like, I don't feel like myself. I was changing my religious views. I was, having a lot of shifts in my life. And so that's why I named the band Susto. And so so my handle is Susto is real, because I'm trying to, I guess, more or less bring light to this term and this thing that I think it transcends cultures, but they have a name for it in Latin America. But
yeah,
anyway, that's where you can find me. So that's a very long form version of your answer or your answer.
Man, people are long form. People like to know who you are and where you're coming from and what your truth is. And I think Brett Weinstein said it best, where it's like a podcast or a way of getting to kind of familiarize yourself with the soul of a person. Mm-hmm. And man, that's where the music comes from. And so it only makes there's nothing more DIY than your soul.
No, totally. Your soul is the original do-it-yourselfer,
So it's like, I appreciate you taking the time to share it, man. And I'm a big fan. I have been since we first met. I'm glad you got to pick on my Telecaster. And I can't wait to when we can hang in the Carolinas and see that lowland country sometime, man.
Yeah, totally. Thank you so much for having me on, Daniel. It's been great to see you again. And I'm glad you're crushing it as always, even in times of COVID. And I look forward to hanging out in person, man.
Let's go, man. All right. Peace on, my friend.
Cheers, brother.
Justin Osborne is an honest man. He's a deep thinking man, and he's a hard working man. And I'm a huge fan. Please indeed go check out Susto. Susto is real. Check out Acid Boys. All right, y'all. What are we listening to today? We were listening to a little bit of Aubrey Ramsey, which he was doing a cover of Cold Rain and Snow. That was on the intro of this podcast. Then we were listening to La Mia by Susto, and then now we're listening to Conway Twitty, Hey Baby, only because I recently saw an episode of Family Guy where they were fucking with Conway Twitty, and I thought it was funny, because I always thought Conway was cool, and then after seeing that Family Guy skit, I definitely realized how Conway could be a little bit funny. So here's to a little bit funny. Here's to a little bit of levity, as mentioned by Justin Osborne. A little bit of levity. I wish that in y'all's life as we go into this new year. One question I want to leave you with is, I really want to, it's more of a challenge. I want you to really think about that one thing, maybe it's three things, that you really don't want to think about. Maybe something you're ashamed of, something you knew you could have done a better job at, or something you just haven't quite gotten done yet. All those bills in the corner, that song you want to learn. And I just want you to tackle that, and I want you to set a to-do date for it. Only so you can empower yourself with the mental freedom, just so you know that you can have time to get goals done. I find when I get most stressed and sad when I believe I don't have enough time. And if you think you don't have enough time, you're sincerely wrong. Because plenty of people who are more successful than you have made great do with the time that they have. And fortunately, we all have 24 hours in a day. Enjoy those 24 hours. Stay patient. Stay persistent. Stay positive. Stay cosmic. I'll talk to y'all later. Thanks for enjoying the Lost Highway podcast.